iZotope's Ozone 11 is here, and even if you're somebody that just likes to click Master Assistant and run with it, I'm going to go over what's new and, more importantly, how to use it practically in your own music. So let's get into it. So let's start off with the most exciting new module that they have included in Ozone 11, and that's the Clarity module. To explain how this works simply, the Clarity module uses hundreds of frequency bands to make your track sound as loud and as powerful as possible. So let's take a listen. So you can hear how it smooths out some of the overpowering tones and brings out some of the stuff that might have been lost in the background. As far as the controls, you have the amount, the attack and release, and you have this tilt control. This adjusts the tone of the spectral target. So if you think the middle is pink noise, the far right is going to be white noise, and the left is going to be brown noise. So depending on the genre that you're going for, whether you want it to be dark or you want it to be brighter, pink is going to be the more natural sounding. But let me show you the difference here. Let me show you this other track that has a lot more going on in it so you can really hear the difference that it made for me. What's really great is that you can use that as a standalone component as well. Moving on to the next feature that they added that I'm loving is in the Maximizer module, you can now use upward compression. This basically works exactly how it sounds. So rather than making the loudest parts of your track quieter, it makes the quieter parts louder without affecting the loudest parts. That's more likely to be noticeable in parts of your track that are less busy. This next feature that they added into almost all of the modules is the Transient and Sustain. So you can access this within the module by the drop-down menu here, and you can control the Sustain and Transient individually. So I'm using the exciter to affect the Transient and the Sustain in this frequency range right here. I applied this subtly, but let me boost it and you'll hear the difference that it's making. Here's a great example of what the Transient and Sustain mode can do on the Exciter module in standalone mode on your drums. What's really smart is that they added the link ability between the Transient and Sustain here, because if I'm adding all that Sustain to the drums, then the Transient might get lost a little bit. So when I turn the Transient model on, it's still allowing the drums to be punchy and cut through all of the Sustain that I brought up into the mix. What if you got to the mastering stage and you're no longer able to make mix adjustments, but you need to bring a certain stem out in the mix more? So they have now added that feature that you've seen in Neutron, the stem focus ability within each module of Ozone here. So you can have the full mix selected, the vocals, drums, and bass to focus on. Okay, now it's time to be honest. Many of us, including myself, probably don't know what a lot of the stuff does inside of Ozone. We tend to just use the Master Assistant to get us to a really good sounding point because it does that really well, and we'll just make little tweaks here and there. So something that they've added now is the Delta button in all of the modules, and what this does is it allows you to hear just the specific difference that each one of them is making. So if I wanted to hear exactly what the Imager module is doing to my track, I'll just click the Delta button. And now we are just hearing exactly what it's affecting. So to give you an example here, let's play with the recover sides. Without the ability to click the delta button to hear that just by itself, I probably wouldn't be able to tell. So this is a very useful feature to hear the subtle differences that are done in the mastering process. Let's try the delta on the exciter. Those sound like some transients to me. There are a ton of UI improvements within this as well, including the Master Assistant view, which looks a lot cleaner. Taking a look in the top right, you're going to see this vocal balance. This is another one of the new features. My track doesn't have any vocals, which the Master Assistant actually does pick up. So you can see that it's just grayed out and I can't do anything with it. But if this track did have vocals, you could make adjustments to the level right here. We have a nice clean section on the right-hand side here with the controls to adjust the amount of the dynamics, width, clarity, and stabilizer. Again, this goes back to the target reference that you're using. I want to touch on CPU usage because a lot of you probably are wondering about that. I want to point out that the Master Assistant actually chose the IRC4 character for the limiter. And if you are not familiar with these, the IRC4 is actually the most CPU intensive. I haven't noticed any CPU problems, but I'll show you Logic's performance meter here while I'm running it. So if you want a breakdown of what features are included in which version of Ozone 11, the standard and the advanced, make sure to check out the link in the description. Don't forget that this is part of the new Music Production 6 suite, which also includes Nectar 4 and Guitar Rig Pro 7.